Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's March 9th, 2024, and we are in the Old Testament book of Ezra, and we're going to read chapter 4 today. All right, so the Israelites came back from Persia, back from exile, or the Judahites, I guess, Judah and Benjamin and the Levites. They've come back to Jerusalem. First thing they did was restore the temple, or excuse me, restore the altar so they could sacrifice again. Then they decided to restore the temple afterwards. And we ended with the youngsters were kind of gung-ho in building the temple, but the old-timers were on the sad end because they were looking at the old temple. So we get that sense that they're looking backwards instead of forwards, but we also get the sense that they're kind of looking at that Solomon's temple and remembering that the presence of God came into the temple when it was dedicated, and right before the exile it left, and maybe they're starting to realize he ain't coming back because he doesn't come back to the temple. We start to get into this period of individuality. That's how we're going to respond to God, and God's going to respond to us. Although we're a ways from that yet. We see the people of the land, that's sometimes called adversaries of Judah. When the Assyrians took the Israelites and the Judahites out of the land, Holy Land, and sent them into exile, they took people from other nations and put them in their place. And that's where we get the Samaritans come from. So these are people that weren't Jews that are now put in this land, and we saw that they sent a priest back to say, oh, well, you know, gods are regional, and there's a God in Jerusalem that these people need to know about. And they ended up with the Samaritan religion, which was not quite the same thing. There were some similarities. They think they're worshiping the same God, but in a completely different way. That's, I guess, the best way to think of it. So they're coming to the people building the temple and say, well, you know, we ought to be able to work on that too. And we're like, no, you're not really Jews, so we don't want to have you deal with us. And the people of the land end up sending a letter back to the Persians and saying, hey, you know what? You go through the records and you look up Jerusalem and look for all the ways that they were evil and rotten subjects of Persia and were just about rebellion and not paying taxes and trying to stir up trouble, and you're going to find it, and you need to stop them from making the temple. So very clever. They didn't tell them to go look for every mention of Jerusalem because they would have found good ones and bad ones. They specifically had them go look for the bad ones. The Persians search their records. They see, oh yeah, Jerusalem does kind of get a little uppity from time to time, and they stop the temple, which had kind of slowed down on its own. And we'll get more to that too. The letter that's written to Persia is in Aramaic, and our text, if you are reading the original Hebrew, switches to Aramaic at that point and switches back. So that just kind of confirms that Ezra has access to a lot of things as he's writing this. He's got access to the Persian records. He's got access to the Judahite records as he's putting this story together. So let's go ahead and we're going to read chapter 4, Ezra chapter 4. Now when the adversaries of Judah and Benjamin heard that the descendants of this captivity were building the temple of the Lord God of Israel, they came to Zerubbabel and the heads of the fathers' houses and said to them, let us build with you, for we seek your God as you do, and we have sacrificed to him since the days of Esarhaddon, king of Assyria, who brought us here. But Zerubbabel and Jeshua and the rest of the heads of the fathers' houses of Israel said to them, you may do nothing with us to build a house for our God, but we alone will build to the Lord God of Israel as King Cyrus the king of Persia has commanded us. Then the people of the land tried to discourage the people of Judah. They troubled them in building and hired counselors against them to frustrate their purpose all the days of Cyrus king of Persia, even until the reign of Darius king of Persia. In the reign of Ahasuerus, in the beginning of his reign, they wrote an accusation against the inhabitants of Judah and Jerusalem. In the days of Artaxerxes, also Bishlam, Merodach, Tabel, and the rest of their companions wrote to Artaxerxes, king of Persia, and the letter was written in Aramaic script and translated into the Aramaic language. Rehum the commander and Shimshai the scribe wrote a letter against Jerusalem to King Artaxerxes in this fashion. From Rehum the commander, Shimshai the scribe, and the rest of their companions, representatives of the Danites, the Aphrashkathites, the Terapolites, the people of Persia and Erech, and the Babylon and Shushan, the Dehavites, the Elamites, and the rest of the nations whom the great and noble Onapar took captive and settled in the cities of Samaria and the remainder beyond the river, and so forth. This is a copy of the letter that they sent him. The king Artaxerxes, from your servants, the men of the region beyond the river, and so forth, let it be known to the king that the Jews who came up from you have come to us at Jerusalem, and are building the rebellious and evil city, and are finishing its walls and repairing the foundation. Let it now be known to the king that if this city is built and the walls completed, they will not pay tax, tribute, or custom, and the king's treasury will be diminished. Now because we received support from the palace, it was not proper for us to see the king's dishonor. Therefore we have sent and informed the king that search may be made in the book of the records of your fathers, and you will find in the book of the records and know that this city is a rebellious city, harmful to kings and provinces, and that they have incited sedition within the city in former times, for which cause this city was destroyed. We inform the king that if this city is rebuilt and its walls are completed, the result will be that you will have no dominion beyond the river. The king sent an answer to Rehum the commander, and to Shimshai the scribe, to the rest of the companions who dwell in Samaria, and to the remainder beyond the river, peace, and so forth. The letter which you sent to us has been clearly read before me, and I give the command, and the search has been made, and it has found that this city in former times has revolted against kings, and rebellion and sedition have been fostered in it. There have also been mighty kings over Jerusalem who have ruled over all the region beyond the river, and tax, tribute, and customs were paid to them. Now give the command to make these men cease, that this city may not be built until the command is given by me. Take heed now that you do not fail to do this. Why should damage increase to the hurt of the kings? Now, when the copy of King Artaxerxes' letter was read before Rehum, Shimshai the scribe, and their companions, they went up in haste to Jerusalem against the Jews, and by force of arms made them cease. Thus the work of the house of God, which is at Jerusalem, ceased, and it was discontinued until the 2nd year of the reign of Darius, king of Persia. May God bless the reading of his word, and God bless you. Bye.